Tech4ED Center Pandemic Resilience Award hopes to share the public how to deliver the services of Tech4ED Center without compromising the safety of the community and the Tech4ED Center managers. It aims to identify and recognize Tech4ED Centers who deliver services that have significant contribution to the society despite the growing public health threat. Award categories. All categories are open to all operational Tech4ED centers in the country that are in existence for at least 1 year and must be operational during the implementation of Enhanced Community Quarantine and General Community Quarantine since March 2020 until the present. Categories are Social Welfare and Rehabilitation, Support for Teachers and Students, Rescue Operation and eGov Services. How to apply? The nomination should cover accomplishments made within the period of March 2020 until September 2020. Nomination for the award should be sent to secretariat@philsecnet.org with the subject 2020 Pandemic Resilience _TC insert Tech4ED Center name. Nomination period is on October 1 to 30, 2020. Deadline for the submission of nominees is on October 30, 2020, and the awarding for the ceremony is on November 26, 2020. Criteria for evaluation. Socioeconomic impact of the Tech4ED Center, 35%. Innovativeness, 30%. Productivity, 20%. Partnerships and networking, 15%, for a total of 100%.
Good morning! Maayong buntag. Assalamualaikum. Buenos dias. Magandang umaga. You are now watching the 15th Knowledge Exchange Conference, a gathering of community eCenter forerunners, centers of excellence, ICT for development enthusiasts, and all involved in making ICT available to communities to exchange ideas, best practices, relevant solutions, and success stories. This year, KEC goes virtual with the theme eCenters in the Digital Philippines for the New Normal. Today's webinar is entitled Research-Based Planning eCenters Making It Happen, streaming live over YouTube. So today we have people from Caloocan, Pangasinan, Laguna, Cebu, and even Sarangani. Thank you for joining us this morning. Welcome to the 15th Knowledge Exchange Conference. I am Angel, your host for today. This webinar was organized by the Philippine Community eCenter Network Incorporated, or PhilSecNet, in cooperation with the Department of Information and Communications Technology, with support from the UP Open University, the Philippine Council for Agriculture, Aquatic, and Natural Resources Research and Development of the DOST, the local governments of Tayabas, Quezon, and San Remio, Cebu, the Asian Institute of Journalism and Communication, with special thanks to our sponsors, PLDT and Quezon Power Limited. This time, let's watch these infomercials.
Mahigit sa 20,000 na ang confirmed
ng PPE.
Isa sa ilalim na ang Metro Manila sa...
Wala na. Wala munang mga food court at fiesta. Meron namang lutong bahay. Wala munang window shopping. Meron namang free shipping. Wala munang happy hour. Pero may isang oras pa. Tulog pa tayo. Wala muna yung aircon at only coffee sa office. Pero andyan yung dream office mate natin. Biruin mo, wala munang quiz night, band night, samgyup night, pati videoke night. Pero meron ng time sa family night. Wala na munang pasyalan, wala na munang bakasyunan. Okay lang siguro mawala lahat ng yon. Huwag lang ito. Kasi may mga bagay na walang kapalit. May mas mahalaga ba dito? Wala. Rediscover what matters. Rediscover home.
Magandang umaga, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Thank you once again for joining us today. Send the YouTube link to your colleagues so they can join us, or drop your comments and let's make this 2-hour session interactive. This year, KEC goes virtual with a series of webinars every Thursday, 9:30 to 11:30 in the morning. And we will be streaming live on YouTube until November 26, 2020. So we will be together for the next few months. These webinars are absolutely free. It is PhilSecNet's contribution in the country's fight against COVID-19 through enabling, strengthening, and facilitating the digital transformation of communities. To join, all you need is to register once. Just register once for the entire conference or for the entire series. If you have not registered yet, please find the link inside the description box below. To participate in the open forum, you will need to post your questions through an open forum form. Please find the link inside the description box below. So here live on YouTube, it will be difficult for us to search through your questions in the comments box. So please make sure to send your questions through that form. Certificates, of course, will also be made available after providing us your feedback. It includes a short quiz to see how well you understood the topic. So please pay attention. Grab your pen and your notes and take down some lessons you've learned from the webinar. The link to the feedback form will be made available again in the description box below towards the end of the webinar. And of course, we will also draw raffle prizes today. Anybody who wants to win the prize today? A total of 6 blessed winners are going to win or are going to get cell cards worth 300 or 500 pesos each. All registered participants from the webinar since the opening last Thursday until today will have the chance to win for the entire conference. Wow, right? Of course, if you're an active PhilSecNet member, you are qualified to win again in a raffle draw during the General Assembly on September 24, 2020. So how do you claim your prize? You just have to send an email to the secretariat to the secretariat at philsecnet.org before this webinar ends. Use the email subject raffle claim, your complete name, and your network provider. So remember to send using the same email address used to register. Again, you do not need to register for each and every webinar. You don't need to register for each webinar. You only have to register once for the entire series, and you will have a separate link to each webinar. So hope that's clear. If it's clear, can you comment down that all the reminders were covered? Clear po ba? Can you just comment down that it's clear so that we know that we got all things covered? All right. So may mga nag-yes. So for today's webinar, I would like to introduce to you our moderator who will also introduce our resource person. Our moderator started out as a teacher in high school and college. After shifting his career from the academe to the IT industry, he got the chance to pursue leadership and management in business process outsourcing for 11 years. Following severance, he became a civil servant and has been leading the Management Information System Division of DOST Picard for 6 years now. Ladies and gentlemen, our moderator, the PhilSecNet Treasurer and Chairperson of the 15th Knowledge Exchange Conference, please welcome Dr. Richard E. Amansek.
Thank you, Angel, for that pleasant introduction. Welcome, everyone. We are now on our second webinar titled Research-Based Planning, eCenters, Making It Happen. This webinar is a bit unique because it is composed of two parts. Part one focuses on the concepts on research-based planning, specifically designed for eCenters. Then part two is a short workshop applying that learning. In short, you're actually attending a webinar workshop today. So, to effectively participate in the workshop, you may want to listen closely to our resource person and join the open forum for your clarifications. And now, please allow me to introduce our resource person. Our resource person is an instructional design consultant for distance education for 11 years. And his work experience has been flexible, both international and national, through Simeo Innotech. 14 years combined work experience as a professional teacher, educational manager, and school head. He also has 11 years of experience as part-time university lecturer. He has been a consultant for Quality Systems Manual for Philippine Association for Professional Regulatory Board Members Incorporated and Professional Regulation Commission. September 2019 to present, he's also a book author and editor, on-call trainer, resource person of the DBPI and Mary Lindbergh International. Yes, he's also a technopreneur at Ideal Prime Ventures International Incorporated. He has served as consultant to various organizations like the Professional Regulation Commission and the Philippine Association of Regulatory Board Members Incorporated, UNESCO National Consultant Philippines, MFIT Values Education, UNESCO Bangkok, and IIEP UNESCO Paris. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome one of PhilSecNet's board members representing the Asian Institute of Journalism and Communication, or AIJC, Professor Pierangelo B. Ale.
Good morning.
Here. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Dr. Ramansek, for that very generous introduction. So I'm very grateful, happy, joining the KEC 15 webinar series. And for the first training module, I'm excited to engage our viewers from all over the Philippines for this webinar. Thank you to PhilSecNet, of course, to our Madam Chair, Dr. Bandalaria, Mel Bandalaria, and all the members of the board of PhilSecNet, the leadership and staff of DICT, and all our Tech4ED or eCenters nationwide, the eCenter managers and operators, and all our viewers today, school owners, professionals, educators, education leaders, managers, business persons, those of you who are registered and are watching today, I greet one and all. Good morning. So, well, without further ado, I'd like to talk to you about research-based planning, because I'm sure those of you who have been engaged for the past how many months already today, no? All of us have been affected by this global pandemic, and you will notice in my presentation slides for you. I am not sure whether or not the words pandemic or COVID are negative terms. And I deliberately chose to include in our title for this webinar, nothing about the new normal, nothing about the pandemic, nothing about COVID. Because as a positive, on a positive note, I would like for us to go back to the basics, okay? Especially in this uncertain times. The many challenges that befalls our countrymen and the people around the world is no joke. This is affecting all work, all employment, all businesses, all education, and even if we are negatively affected, no, most of the time when we don't know what we're doing, no, for me, just like other researchers, when we don't know what we are doing, then we are doing research. These are the things that we take for granted, no? But that's basic research. It is what I am doing when I don't know exactly what I am doing, according to Von Braun, no, a scientist. And it is a distance that we have to traverse, no, at any time. So, ladies and gentlemen, I prepared a brief presentation for you for this webinar. So, is it all right if I also give you a short visual? Okay, you can see from the screen the title of our webinar, Research-Based Planning, eCenters Making It Happen. What do we want to make into reality? I mean, if you ask yourselves now, what do you want? If you are a business owner, what are your dreams right now, especially in these times? What are your goals? If you are an eCenter manager, what is now the relevance of your eCenter in your area, in your community? If you are an educator preparing for the delayed opening of classes in basic education or higher education, how's your planning? Has it affected your your mode of communication with your superiors, with your stakeholders, I'm sure in one way or the other, you are coping. You are trying to survive. And if you are making it happen for you in this survival mode, no, it would be best to share this. No? So I'm sure you have your own experiences, you have your own ideas as well that you would like to share. And so let's make it happen today. No? This webinar is not an academic exercise. I will try my best to share with you something positive despite the times, despite the challenges, no, despite the COVID. Okay, because as you know, if we go back to the basics, in the next slide, you will see a powerful picture depicting depicting the message, the relevance of data. In the digital age, data is not just a commodity. It is a valued and most valuable reality. It is more often than not, it is a currency that we use. If we have sufficient and correct, right information, then we possess something very valuable, no, very powerful. And this is the subject of research. Okay, knowledge is power, as we have heard of before, many times before. Information is freedom. It is liberating. It is something that a concern for any form of research. And when we do research, if you are not doing research and you are an educator, then you have no subject to teach. Okay? It is education itself. It is education that is the premise of progress in any society, okay? In every family. So I'm sure if you are a business owner, if you are a school head, if you are a professional, you are an eCenter manager, operator, you wouldn't want to let your plans, in the next slide you will see a caricature of how you would possibly drive your plans and your activities, your projects. Would you rather let them be driven by intelligent decisions or be driven by the voice, the loudest voice of the highest paid person's opinion, or the hippo? in this caricature, you'll see a mirthful depiction of how important data information is. And in research, doing research, that is something that we cannot do without. Okay? So for today, in the next slide, you will see the sum total of what to expect from this webinar. What will you learn? Well, together with me, we will describe what research is. We will describe the different methodologies in conducting research, the different types. And you will see the value of conducting research and environmental scanning to identify the opportunities affecting an eCenter's plan. You know, a school is an eCenter. Your office is an eCenter. Your family home that is connected to the rest of the world is an eCenter. Okay? Your store is an eCenter. The Tech4ED Center in Cebu, in San Remigio, in Carmona, in Quezon, these are all eCenters. We deal with electronic data. We deal with electronic information. And now, at this point, if you realize how important research is and all the different types, imagine what we can do if we use the results of our research for our planning. Okay, so that's the value. And so we move on to the assumptions. I have very simple assumptions for today. First, I assume that all of you have done research, one way or the other. Each one of us, we have done research. Also, all eCenters must have some sort of plan, whether it is a strategic plan or a tactical plan. You must have some plan. Leading your eCenter, sustaining the operations of your eCenter, you have a plan. However, a few of us are really conducting research or using the results of research for planning. Isn't that true? So these are the assumptions. So in the next slide, I have two questions for you. What is hindering you? What's stopping you from doing research? What will enable you to do research? Just an honest question. Why aren't you doing research? What is stopping you from doing research? Was it Albert Einstein who once said, I don't know if my memory serves me well, but was it Albert Einstein who was talking about research in a certain way that is dumbfounding, no? Like it is very surprising if one realizes that the value of doing something good, in a sense, no, as a professional discipline, and yet you're not doing it, no? And yet you are not doing it. So what do we mean by this? If it is a distance to be traversed, no, from an idea to its realization, which is the very basic goal of carrying out your plans, research is something that you cannot do without. For a long time, you have been saying to yourself or to people, you have no time. I have no time. For the longest time, you have been telling yourself you will read this book, this number of books for the year, but have you read them? Just ask yourself now, were you able to read one book this year? In 2020, when 2020 opened, how many books have you read? How many new information have you processed? So these questions I have for you is something serious. Now let's face this once and for all. What is stopping you from doing research? What will enable you to do research? So moving on, in our webinar today, I'll give the overview just to describe to you the big why. Despite these two questions, I'd like us to mentally go through the reasons why we should do this. So I'll give you 5 reasons. In the next slide, you will read. First, please realize that developed countries give importance to research. Any country that has achieved cityhood, statehood, economic development, all of these developed countries give importance to research. Second, research is required for appointment, for retention, for tenure, or for promotion. Talk to your boss about that. If you want to be promoted, then you have to do research. There is a saying among the academicians, publish or perish. If you are not able to contribute to a journal, to a decent publication, if you are not able to publish your ideas, your writing, then you will perish. Okay? It's a bit harsh, but that's reality among us academicians. Publish or perish. Okay? It's not that you want to have a name for yourself, but when you are published, you earn credibility. You are believable. No, you become trustworthy. You become an author. You become an authority. A third reason will be research should be conducted to find possible solutions to problems. There you go. No? For every problem, there is a solution. So to do that, we need to do research. Number 4, research will add knowledge to our field of area or area of expertise or specialization. How can you be a specialist if you're not doing research? And lastly, research can help fill the gaps between what is ideal and what is real. We bridge the gap between the ideal and what is reality. Okay, so these are the big ideas, no, of the why of research, why you should do this. Now, moving on to the what. To give you an overview of the what, I would like to share with you a very popular, very academic and formal definition of research. And in the next slide, you will see research, according to Frankel and Wallen, research is a careful, systematic, patient study and investigation in some field of knowledge undertaken to discover or establish facts and principles. Okay, a few words, but it captures the essential meaning of research. Now, let us go through the different types of research. In the next slide, based on theory development, research can be either basic research or applied research. In basic research, this is where we develop or even enhance an existing theory. Okay? In applied research, this is where we test a theory. Okay? So, but for this webinar, we will not go through the rudiments and the nitty-gritty of the different types of research, but we will talk about something that you can immediately do, decently do as research. And this is for eCenters. You can always do environmental scanning. Okay? So moving on, based on the type of data that you use, that you collect, that you treat, there are two kinds of research. One is quantitative research, wherein you collect numerical data and use statistical procedures to analyze the data. That's what you call quantitative research. In qualitative research, however, this is where you collect non-numerical data, like interviews. And the responses, the non-numerical information that you get are to be analyzed by organizing the data into categories, into different groups, so you can identify patterns and produce descriptive narrative syntheses according to the academics. So based on the type of data you're handling, research can be either quantitative or qualitative. Some researchers are doing a hybrid. No? It is both quantitative and qualitative. So it is a mixture of both. So that is depending on the type of data that you collect and that you use. Moving on, based on the method used, research can be descriptive, correlational, causal comparative, experimental, case studies, or ethnography. So based on the methodology, depending on the need for it, your research can be descriptive, correlational, causal comparative, experimental, case study, or ethnographics. So these are the different types of research. Moving on, let me summarize for you the research process. As you can see on the screen, it is a cycle wherein it begins probably by defining the problem. If you are sure about the problem to be attacked, then it begins there. You have to be able to define, to describe, and express the problem. And so for this webinar, my challenge for you is this. If you are dead serious in doing research as it is, then you have to write it down. You have to begin by writing today. And that's why there's a workshop later on. If you want to begin, then you have to write it down. So it all begins in the defining of the problem. And then it shifts to conducting a good literature review. You have to do research. You have to go to the library. You have to go to the internet, the World Wide Web, gather information, Google up some terms, some facts, etc. But you have to do a good literature review. You have to open up books. You have to research on finished or completed studies. Okay? And because of the help of the internet, this makes the research easier for you. Organizing your research steps easier. And then you have to create a research plan. Doing the research is not planning to fail. If you want to succeed in your research, you have to have a plan. Okay, so you create your research plan. And then, of course, you collect the data, you analyze the data, and make conclusions. This is the research process. And it's a never-ending cycle of knowing, of determining, of validating, comparing, contrasting, experimenting, making conclusions that branches out to more problems to investigate, because it's not a perfect world. Even if you've found a solution to a problem, I'm sure people will look for problems out of it. Okay, we are not content, we are not satisfied with the good things that we have. No, we continue to look for more and more and more and more. And so even if the problems branch out, then the solution finders will continue to abet the growth of problems with research. Okay, so in the next slide, let me shortcut for you environmental scanning. A good and decent research tool for eCenter operators, managers, business owners is this. If you want to conduct a quick and dirty research for your organization, for your business, you can always do the old-fashioned SWOT analysis. I'm sure you have heard of this before. And for many academicians and practitioners, this is the deficitary way of determining strengths, weaknesses, threats, opportunities, and threats. Okay? So the SWOT analysis is a scientific step-by-step method of an environmental scanning or of conducting a mini research. You can always do SWOT. Now, since I mentioned that for some academicians, they call it a deficitary way of doing analysis, researchers like Srivastava and co-operator from Ohio State University invented appreciative inquiry, or AI. This is the alternative for deficitary methods of analysis, because in the 4D model of appreciative inquiry, they always focus on the positive, not on problems, but on the positive things. So with AI comes now the positive version of SWOT. And this is what you call SOAR, SOAR, wherein the researchers focus on strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and results. So there are no threats and problems. No, there are no weaknesses. Only positive terms, no, like strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and results. And use your internet connectivity. Take advantage of Wikipedia, take advantage of Google. No, you will know what SWOT and SOAR means and how to do it. In the SWOT analysis, you will be able, together with your team, you will be able to see internal and external attributes. Attributes of what? First, attributes of your organization, of the eCenter. The qualities, the strengths, the positive characteristics of your eCenter and your services. And then the external attributes of what? Of the environment. Your competitors, other schools, other centers, the challenge nowadays in the community, maybe in your area, there is a high percentage of positive cases of COVID-19 patients, and the movement is limited. So you'll be able to identify external attributes of the environment in a SWOT analysis. So just go and visit your favorite websites and you will see what and how to do SWOT. The same is true for SOAR. In the next slide, for SOAR analysis, you will be able to see what positive aspects and attributes to consider when you do a SOAR analysis. So in a SOAR analysis, you are going up. You are going higher and higher in your appreciation of the choice statements that you use, the internal strengths of the organization, the shared and co-created values, vision, mission, and innovations and desired outcomes of your eCenter, of your organization, and going up to the strategic and tactical plans, activities, after appreciating the strengths, and finally targeting results, desired results, implementing continuous improvement, kaizen in the Japanese culture. So this is a more positive version of SWOT. Okay, the SWOT analysis is deficitary according to some experts or schools of thought, and so the alternative is SOAR, the SOAR framework. Okay, so after this brief review of environmental scanning tools, let me now move on to the most difficult step in research. In the next slide, you will see that defining the problem is always difficult. And you will realize that in defining the problem, you will realize that research is always problem-based. We cannot escape this world of problems. Research is always this. It's always problem-based. It's always something that we find solutions for. So identifying the research problem is probably the most difficult step in the research process. If you may agree with me or not, well, many of us in the academe teach this, that this is the most challenging step. The research problem is the focus of the investigation, according to Frankel and Wallen. Okay, again, going back to Albert Einstein, He said in 1938, the formulation of a problem is far more often essential than its solution, which may be merely a matter of mathematical skill or experimental skill. To raise new questions, new possibilities, to regard old problems from a new angle require creative imagination. It will require your, creativity in imagining concepts and combinations, patterns. Well, Albert Einstein also saw this. So what are the possible sources of a research problem? In the next slide, you will see that theories, personal experiences, and completed research are possible sources of a research problem. When you look at completed research, studies that have been published in journals and in websites, you can consider the recommendations. You can build from the completed studies. Maybe you can do your research based on the recommendations of other people's research. Or you can replicate in a different setting. Let's say a completed research in Cebu was published and you've got wind of it, you've read it, then maybe you want to apply it in Carmona, then it is also a genuine research. You're simply replicating the solution from a different province to an urban or another province or an urban setting. So that's another form of research. Okay, so these are the possible sources of a research problem. And how do we determine a good research problem? What are the characteristics? So in the next slide, you will see here, make sure, and I'm sure this is your personal experience, if you come across several research, published, completed research, you will know that a good research problem is interesting. If it's not interesting for other people, make it interesting. You have to use certain ideas, certain words, certain visuals to make it interesting. Okay, so a good research problem is interesting, it's researchable, it is significant to theory or research and practice, it is manageable, it is clearly defined, and it is ethical. Okay, it is ethical, it's morally sound. Okay, and what are the steps for you to proceed exploring your adventure in research? Look at these different steps. You have to discover a dilemma, the problem. As I've said, it all begins with a problem. Discover the dilemma, the excitement in that problem. There's always a blessing in disguise. And then you have to define the general question. Define the major problem statement. It has to be grammatically, syntactically, and researchably correct. Okay, define the major problem statement. And of course, you define the research question. If you don't know how to write a research question, then this webinar is for you, especially the workshop part. So what are the sources of information for you to be able to be equipped in the steps? Well, there's always a personal library. You may have some books in your home or in the office. There's the institutional library. There's the virtual library. So the World Wide Web is a library. So, for example, let us apply. Let me give you some patterns. If you're looking at the screen right now, what is a dilemma? Example, student achievement in science in your community, let's say in Carmona, is declining based on standardized results from DepEd. So the general question can be, how can educators improve student achievement in science? How can families, parents, improve student achievement in science? So, syempre, mas okay, educators. Problem statement. Can the use of interactive multimedia improve science achievement of high school students? Okay, moving on. In the example, in the next slide. So therefore, your research question will be, is there a significant difference between the science achievement mean score of students in IMM class, the multimedia class, and in the non-IMM class? So you compare. So this is a good investigation. This is a good researchable investigative statement. Okay, so this is an example of the steps I have heralded for you 2 slides earlier. So we move on to the overview as to the how. How do we do research? First off, and this is now, we are now moving on to the more particular advice, inputs for the eCenter. Later on, for eCenter managers. Number 1, for the eCenter. Gentlemen, ladies, number 1, understand the culture of your institution. Understand the culture of your institution. Number 2, review your research program. Is there any at all? In the eCenter, do you have a research program? So when you review, you find out, oh, we don't have a research program. Maybe this is now the time to have a research program. Maybe it's just named a different name. Number 3, get external referees for your in-house publications. If your eCenter is involved in publishing leaflets, infographics, manuals, whatever, make sure you also have external referees. Don't just edit them by yourselves. No, invite guest experts to comment on your publications and to contribute to your publications. Number 4, provide statisticians to help with your quantitative analysis. If your excuse is that you are not good in statistics, you are uncomfortable with numbers, then this number 4 is for you. Provide statisticians to help with quantitative analysis. If you are weak in numbers, then you collaborate with those who are strong in numbers, in statistics. It's not the end of the world for you. If the reason for you to delay your master's degree or your doctorate degree is because of statistics, that's not a problem anymore nowadays. Number 5, understand the types of professors you have. Oh yes, you have professors. Most of you are professionals. Some of you are in the academe, and therefore, whether you are in higher education or basic education, you are professors as well. Okay, you are professors. You profess something. Okay, well, what is that? There are 3 types of professors. 3 types of professors. 1, the professor who is a researcher. Not all researchers are effective teachers. They may be good in research, but they are poor teachers. That's one kind of professor, one type of professor. The second type of professor are the teachers. But not all effective teachers can do research. Oh yes, not all effective teachers can do good research. These are the teachers. Okay, so that's the second type of professor. The third type of professor is the hybrid. There are good researchers who are also effective teachers. Remember that. But let me just summarize that there are only 2 types of persons in this world. One is a teacher, the other one is a dead teacher. Oh yes. All of us are teachers. For as long as you influence another fellow, another soul, another person in this world, you are a teacher. Okay, so moving on, that's the three types of professors. How about my specific suggestions and advice for the eCenter manager? For you, who is the owner? For you, who is the CEO? For you, who is the main man, the school head, the principal, the director. Number one, write what you are thinking. Write it down. Write what you are thinking. Nobody can read your mind. Number two, start with small research. You know, quote unquote, small research. This is what we call action research. As you get your groove, you can expand your sampling population eventually. If you started with an action research, then you can further develop that into a full-blown research. Number three, read a lot about your area of interest or field of expertise and do a good review of literature. This indicates the extent of knowledge that you have on your area of interest. So you need to build on existing knowledge or what is already there. Number four, take advantage of the virtual library, but be careful of choosing your virtual sources. Remember, Wikipedia is okay to get initial information, but it is not okay for you to be citing Wikipedia always, no? For your footnotes, for your endnotes, wag naman puro Wikipedia. Okay, that's not okay. Then, moving on, for the eCenter manager, always cite your sources. No? In the next slide, I'd like you to be forewarned that plagiarism is an academic crime. No? Always cite your sources. Do not steal ideas from other people who have already written them. Okay? Always cite them as a respect for the researchers that have gone before you. No? So always cite your sources. This is very important. This is one attribute of scholarly credibility. No? Cite your sources and you will be authoritative. Number six, problem comes first before the design. Okay? Design follows problems. Problem comes first before the design. Number seven, consider a group research, but make sure everyone does his or her job. It can be a collaborative research. And number eight, lastly, research is meant to be shared. Okay, always share the research. Oh, I'm sorry. There are more suggestions for eCenter managers in the next slide. If your research gets rejected from being published or presented in a conference, find out why. You can always ask and then make necessary improvements. Number 10, know the format of the research journal you want to submit your research article for publication. Always, if you are reading and if you really want to get published, try to be familiar with the format of those journals. Number 11, your title is a working title until you are finished with the research. Okay? Your title is only a working title until you have finished it. Okay? And then, number 12, this is the last. Use the results of your research by citing whatever data, whatever finding from this, and then applying them to your next strategic plan. To your next strategic plan, or even your tactical plans. No? Use the results. It shouldn't gather dust on the shelves of your center or office. You have to use the results. You have to cite. You have to get this habit of citing data. Okay? If you do not cite data or evidence, how can you be believable? You have to be believable if you are ready with the information. Okay? So, very briefly, let me breeze you through this workshop. You can try this workshop in the next slide for the eCenter managers, business owners, leaders there out there listening right now, viewing this. You can try this workshop. The mechanics are simple. First, you ask your collaborators, your colleagues, your team. Ask your collaborators to create a concept map of the research problem. This can be done individually or in pairs. Then follow the steps of defining a research problem, which I showed to you in the slides earlier. First, present the dilemma. Okay, present the dilemma. Second, state the general question. Third, state the problem. Number four, what is the research question or statement for comments of your colleagues? So this is a very simple mechanics, set of mechanics. Let me now define to you what a problem statement is very, very quickly. A problem statement, my friends, should be able to convince your audience that your problem is real and it is worthy of investigation. It is interestingly worthy to study. Okay? That's a problem statement. A problem statement is the backbone, the spine of your research. All parts of the research are anchored on the problem statement. And that's why I told you this is the most difficult step in the research process. So it has 4 parts, gentlemen and ladies. It has 4 parts. In the next slide, you will see. Statement 1, you have to describe the ideal scenario. Describe the goals, the desired state, or the values that are relevant to the problem. So it can be expressed in a sentence. And then in your second statement, you have to describe a condition that prevents the goal or the state or value or discussed in statement 1. So from being achieved or from being realized at the present time, you have to express it there in statement number 2. And to connect them, you can use the words but or however, unfortunately, or in spite of, etc. So there. So these are the 2 parts. The next 2 parts are statement number 3. In the next slide, you have to show the consequences for the audience. Show how the situation in statement number 2 contains little promise of improvement unless something is done. So that's convincing. Then emphasize the benefits of research by projecting the consequences of all possible solutions as well. And then the fourth and last statement, this is the research statement, the proposed research. Describe the areas of inquiry you will use that could lead to solutions to the problem. How will you research the problem? So those are the 4 parts. And then as a quick pattern for you, in the next slide, I'll give you one example. Okay. The audience is the director of Rainbow's eCenter, a program run by an international organization, blah, blah, blah. So there, the audience. Statement 1 is given. And in the next slide, statement 2, you have an example there. And in the next, in statement 3, there you go. And in the research statement, you will read. And thus, this research will blah, 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 blah. So you have a pattern here in these slides. No? That's example 1. And in the next slide, you will see example 2, color-coded yung statements. So you have a pattern of how statement 1, 2, and 3, and 4 are written. So you can really try this workshop in your own workstations, or you may join me later in a Zoom platform so that we can capture, especially for the eCenters, we can capture your research statements in a Google Sheet in the workshop part after this webinar. Okay, moving on. The mechanics for the workshop is simple. Based on the research question defined previously or within your workshop, you complete the matrix and then present this output to everyone in plenary. Okay? So there, I have for you a simple but very productive workshop that you can try anytime. So my friends, ladies and gentlemen, in the next slide, I would like to crystallize our webinar in a few words. No? The results from the research-based planning that you will ever try for your eCenter, for your organization, will eventually lead to progress. Not only for your organization, but for the nation, for the entire country. Imagine, my friends, the Tech4ED Centers of the ICT, all the eCenters that PhilSecNet is supporting, okay? There are more than 4,300 eCenters nationwide. In NCR alone, there are 106 eCenters who can cater to 20 users of computers connected to the internet, 20 people from the community at any given day. In NCR alone, 106. So if you do the numbers, that's roughly more than 40,000 people accommodated in the 106 eCenters in NCR alone every month. For what? For education, for digital literacy, okay? For employment opportunities in government or in private, for entrepreneurship, okay? And eventually for economic development, because this is a positive thing. We are contributing to nation building, okay? We are not adding salt and injury to the injuries of our country. We are looking for solutions, not problems. So research can do this for us. So you imagine, my dear friends, eCenter managers, what we can do if we professionalize, further professionalize the potential of our thinking and writing it down, writing it down into letters and numbers, getting more information, getting more knowledge. Because as the researchers believe, the distance between an idea and its realization, which is nation building progress, is research. Okay? Research. It is a scientific activity and a natural activity. Because why will we call it research if it is not going to be good for us? As I mentioned earlier, it was Albert Einstein himself who said, if we knew what it was we were doing, it would not be called research, would it? So that's why, if we don't know, then very good, we do research. If you don't know, you're weak at this, at that, okay, well and good. Then we will help one another to do research. But the most important thing is to get the results from the experiments and the writings and the exercises that we do to get the process done and in getting the results. And then we share those results to others so that others may learn as well from our mistakes and from our achievements. Because there is a Latin saying, Victoria amat curam. Victory loves preparation. Research is preparation. If we want to succeed in business, if we want to succeed in the services we offer, then we do research, because this is good preparation, especially in these times of the pandemic, when there are emerging new processes, the so-called new normal. Well, I'm not worried too much about this new normal, because it has not changed the dignity of human beings. It has not changed the capacities that we have. Whether we are under pressure or not, we have the same capacities to love, to choose freely, to be not ignorant, to be liberated from falsehoods, from falsities, from deception. So it is up to us, you and I, to do something good. So with that, thank you for your patience now for my very long webinar talk. I can only express my gratitude to PhilSecNet and to the organizers, to the backroom team for this broadcast. Muchísimas gracias, no? Merci beaucoup. Oh, maraming salamat po. At tayo'y handa na para ma-assess, no, ang ating mga sarili for some few competencies, no, after listening to this webinar.
Thank you so much, Sir Pierre. Yes, that's very, very informative. I especially like the quotation you made earlier, that the distance between an idea and realization is research. Yeah, kasi sa school, no, if we are still going to school, research is somewhat very academic, na parang requirement lang para pumasa. But based on what you just described, apparently, research is something that we need to make things happen effectively and science-based. Diba? You mentioned earlier that data is important for decision-making. In other words, data-driven decisions rather than just listening to the opinion of the highest-paid hippo. So, how can we make this lesson or these key points easier to remember? Do you have any suggestions?
Well, maybe what can be a good suggestion for that is to leisurely, not seriously, not in a hard way, but leisurely in a fun way. Let's review. Always review. No, any day, any time. Let's review in a fun way. That's why I prepared a game, Dr. Richard, for our webinar viewers to assess minimum level competencies in research-based planning.
Okay, let's do that. So let's see. Maybe we.
But I need volunteers. I need volunteers, Dr. Richard, from our webinar
volunteers. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's see here. For all who's viewing live right now, you're free to volunteer to this quiz show. And let's see who we have here. We have our first volunteer, Ma'am Dory Emelo. Ma'am Dory, please join us. She's the municipal director of LGU Mina.
Yes,
and a Tech4ED Center consultant in Mina, Iloilo. Hi, Ma'am Dory.
Hello, sir. Hello. Good morning.
Okay, we have another volunteer here, Gringo M. Makinay. He's the assistant center manager in LGU Carmona, Cavite.
Hello, sir.
Join us.
Hello,
sir.
Gringo.
Good morning po.
We have one more. Let's call on Ma'am Marilyn C. Castillan. She's the center manager of the eCenter at LGU San Fabian, Pangasinan.
Hello, sir. Good morning po sa lahat.
Hi, Ma'am Lady.
Good morning po.
Okay, so as mentioned by Sir Pierre, there is a quiz show that we would like you to participate in. So let's see the quizzes. Take it away, Sir Pierre.
Sir. Thank you, Dr. Richard. Joining us from Mindanao is Sir Edwin, who will be assisting me in facilitating this popular quiz show. Okay? And we will ask Sir Edwin to put up our quiz show game. Okay. Well, friends, ladies and gentlemen, as you have heard from the music background of our quiz show game, uh, this is patterned after the popular American game, I think, or Filipino. It was adapted in Philippine setting. Are you smarter than a fifth grader? Grade 5 student. Okay, so Sir Edil, if you're ready, let's open up the game for our volunteers. Thank you for the three brave souls. Our who would like to go first? Maybe I should call Ma'am Dory, since this is our first time in many months to see each other again. Ma'am Dory, pick a number, any number.
1.
Number 1. Okay.
Number 1.
Ma'am Dory, I would like to request you to read the question and answer it on your own, and then we will compare your answer with mine. Okay?
Okay.
So here it goes. Please read the question and answer.
The first question is, what is a research? So as we all know, there are so many definitions and meanings of research. However, based on your discussion a while ago, I've learned that research is an investigative inquiry using information. And I have also learned that research is a careful, systematic patient study, an investigation in some field of knowledge undertaken to discover, establish facts and principles. This is from Frankel and Wallen, the meaning of research, as what we have discussed.
Wow. So I can sense you were able to take down notes, huh? Electronically. Very good. So let's compare your answer with the prepared game. Yes, research is investigative inquiry using information. And then also, citing an academician, it is a careful, systematic, and patient study in investigation in some field of knowledge undertaken to discover or establish facts and principles. Very good. Congratulations, Ma'am Dory. You earn 1 point.
Okay, thank you.
1 point. Choose a number, any number.
Another
Just
number?
one more. Yes, another number.
I think I will choose number 5. I will choose number 5.
Number 5. Okay. Let's click number 5 and please read your question.
What are the characteristics of a good research problem? So the characteristics of a good research problem based on your discussion are the following. They must be interesting. They must be researchable, significant to theory, research and practice, and they must be manageable or feasible. They must be clearly defined. And last, they must be ethical. So those are my answers.
Wow. Verbatim. Let's see. Let's check. I think Ma'am Dory was able to screen capture my PowerPoint slide.
Yes. I'm
very good. Very good. Very good. It's interesting, correct? It's researchable and it is significant. The theory or the practice, it is manageable or feasible, and it is clearly defined. Very well, very well. Thank you and congratulations, Ma'am Dory. You have 2 points already. So as a reminder, my friends, if you are able, those of you who are watching right now, please join us quietly with the 3 volunteers that we have so that you are also answering the 10 questions. And if you get 5 correct items, that means you are competent. After taking this webinar, you are competent. in the basics of research-based planning. Okay, so let's call on Sir Gringo. Sir Gringo, it's your turn. Choose a number. Any
Yes, sir.
number.
Good morning po. I choose number 2, sir.
Number two. Okay, number two. Please read number two question, Sir Gringo.
Uh, what are the two types of research based on the type of data used or treated?
Okay.
Um, sir, according to the discussion kanina, we have two types of research, which is the quantitative and the qualitative research. Wherein the quantitative research is based on numerical, okay, research, and then the qualitative uh, research is based on the observance.
Okay,
Yun po.
let's compare it, Sir Edil, with the prepared answers. Our key to correction says yes, qualitative and quantitative types of research. Congratulations, Sir Gringo. You've earned 1 point already. So,
Thank you, sir.
one more. Choose one more number, any number, aside from those that have been called.
Wait lang. Number 6, sir.
Number 6. Congratulations, Paul Gavasan. You also got it right, Paul Gavasan. Okay. Please read the next question, Sir Gringo, and answer.
Okay. What are the possible resources of research problem? Okay. The possible resources of research problem, I think, sir, is based po dun kanina na discuss nyo po, are the theories, okay? Personal experience, completed research, wherein pwede tayong magbase sa mga dating mga researches na or completed researches na po. Yun po. And then considering din po yung mga recommendation and then replicating of other settings po, sir.
Tama. Compare nga natin sa key to correction natin. Answer key. Pwedeng theories. Okay. Pwedeng personal experience. Okay. May point.
Yes, sir.
Si Sir Gringo. Pwedeng completed research. At iba pa, no? So, ayan. Kung meron namang tama si Sir Gringo doon, kaya considered 1 point din yun, Sir Gringo, for you.
Thank you, sir.
Kay Perla rin, Cabrillos. Tama rin yung sagot ni Perla Cabrillos. At dun kila Norman Gutierrez, tama rin si Norman Gutierrez. Dulce, pwede na yung sagot mo. So, ipunin niyo po yung points ha. Pag naka 5 points kayo out of 10 or 10 out of 10, perfect, then you are competent for this. Kaya talagang karapat dapat kayo magkaroon ng certificate afterwards ha. So, tawagin naman po natin si Ma'am Marilyn Castillan.
Hi, sir. Opo.
Hi, ma'am. Choose a number, any number aside from those that have been called out.
Number 7.
7 it is, okay? We click number 7 and please read your question.
What can be true about research problem? Yung na-discuss niyo po kanina, based on my based on my opinion, kailangan tayo mag-focus on investigation. Okay, so the research problem is the focus on investigation, and research is always problem-based.
Okay, let's compare that to our prepared key to correction. Research, okay, correct. Research is always problem-based. Identifying the research problem is probably the most difficult step in the process. And what else? The research problem is the focus. So correct, exactly, perfect yung sagot ni Ma'am Marilyn. So you get also 1 point. So moving on, get another number, Ma'am Marilyn.
Number 4.
Number 4 it is, okay? Number 4, please read your question and answer.
What is also known as small research? Like sa ating mga center, Tech4ED Center, Community Center, we do action research.
Action research. Let's see
Yes.
whether your answer is correct. Kaboom! Yes! Tama! Tama na naman si Ma'am Mary. 2 points. Perfect kayong tatlo ah. Puro tama. Wala pa nagkakamali. Yan po ang ganda. Kahit online tayo, hindi tayo magkakaharap. Yan po ang ganda kasi captured nyo kagad yung presentation. Nakakatulong sa memory. Dahil sa mga devices ninyo, pwede nyong screen capture yung slide. No? Meron kayo kagad ready reference. Pwede naman, talagang kahit hindi kayo nakarely dun sa pictures, sa slides, talagang nakuha nyo kagad kasi kanina lang eh. Fresh na fresh pa, di ba? Kaya ngayon na natin gawin yung assessment para siguradong competent tayo here and now. Ito yung snapshot ng ating kaalaman at additional na kaalaman here and now. Very good sa inyo pong tatlo. So, magbabalik tayo kay Ma'am Dory. Baka si Ma'am Dory, pwede pang pumili ng isa o dalawang number pa?
Okay, another number, sir. I will choose number 9.
Number 9, it is.
That's my favorite.
Please read.
The question is, what could be the first research process? What could be the first step in the research process? So the first step in the research process is, of course, to define the research problem. So how can go on with the research if we don't have the problem? Well, sir,
tingnan nga
that's
po
my
natin,
answer.
Ma'am Dory, kung tama po ba yung sagot nyo sa report natin. Define the research problem. Yes, tama po si Ma'am Dory. Another correct point. Very good. How about Sir Gringo? Sir Gringo, choose another number.
I'll choose number 10, sir.
Number 10. Please read your question.
Why is conducting research-based planning an important competency for eCenter managers and operators? Okay. First, it's important. First, it gives a country's importance to research. Based dun sa kanina na diniscuss, it's also for promotion and credibility. It adds knowledge, find solution to problems, and yung isa nga sa lagi nating inaano, it fill the gap between the ideal and real, okay, para ma-meet natin or masagot natin kung ano ba yung i-research natin or yung problem na na-encounter natin. Okay, and then yung the last thing, yung is pinaka-importante, okay, for the progress of nation building. So, malaking tulong po yung research. Okay, yung pagko-conduct natin ng mga research. Okay, tulad sa mga ginagawa natin sa eCenter po natin. Okay, para mas magamit natin ang ating eCenter. Ano yung mga solution, lalo na po ngayon, in times of pandemic, ano yung pwede natin i-offer. So, pwede tayong gumawa ng research, okay, para mapatuloy natin yung ano po ng natin, eCenter, pagbigay ng service sa mga tao. Yun po, sir.
Wow. Wow, Sir Gringo. You know, I can't express how glad I am reacting to your own words, no? Imagine, ilang minuto lang yung nakaraan, pero you are able to express in your own words, using your own ideas after absorbing a few inputs from the webinar, napapaliwanag mo ng malinaw kung bakit mahalaga yung pag-conduct ng research-based planning para sa eCenters. Ikaw ba'y connected sa isang eCenter, Sir Gringo?
Yes, sir. Actually, ako po ay assistant CEC manager po. Here in Carmona, meron po kami almost sa 11 na po na CEC na minamanage na center.
Amazing. Fantastic. Sabi ko na nga po. Kaya magaling. So, my friends, at saka yung mga nanonood po sa atin sa YouTube live, yung mga tama rin po ang sagot sa YouTube, sa chat box. Ang dami po, karamihan, tama rin yung sagot nila. Lahat po ng 10 questions na yan, sagutan ninyo, honesty system na lang, bilangin ang tamang sagot. Pag may minimum 5 kayo, competent yun. Pag perfect 10, mas maganda. No? So, tayo pong lahat ay honored to have Sir Gringo as the head of the ICT right now, si Secretary Gringo Onasan II. Kaya kung tayo po ay nag-attend ng opening webinar natin, nakita po namin si Secretary Onasan dun sa nagbigay ng keynote address opening webinar natin last week ng PhilSecNet, KEC 15. So, ang tukayo ni Secretary Onasan na si Sir Gringo ngayon ay nagpahayag ng kanyang sariling mind tungkol sa kahalagahan ng research-based planning for eCenter managers. So maraming salamat, Sir Gringo.
Thank you din po.
Ma'am Marilyn, di ka makalusot. Tingnan niyo po yung sagot ni Sir Gringo sa sagot natin, Sir Gringo. Compare nga natin. Sir Edil. Countries give importance to research. Next is for promotion and credibility. Mapopromote tayo pag tayo ay nagre-research. Ano pa? It adds knowledge. Ano pa? Find solutions to problems. And then, what more? Fill the gap between ideas and between the ideal and real. Yan. So, hindi makakalusot si Ma'am Marilyn. Papiliin pa rin natin dyan sa pang-number. Marilyn?
Number 8.
Number 8. So, sige, number 8. Please read and answer.
Okay. For conducting environmental scanning in the area of my eCenter, what models may be used? Okay, so based on our discussion po kanina, ito po ay ginawa before po nag-start ang community eCenter o yung aming Tech4ED Center. So, syempre, ang hindi po na nawawala kapag tayo ay magsiset ng isang eCenter ay yung tinatawag nating SWOT analysis. So, nandyan po yung strength, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and threats. So, dapat discuss po yan para at least nalalaman po kung ano ba yung mga dapat na i-prepare ng isang eCenter para magkaroon ng ano ba yung mga strength, weaknesses, yun nga po, yung mga opportunities para at least ma-adapt siya ng community natin. So, siguro before tayo mag-set ng mga community center, para sa akin, ito po yung dapat na ini-implement yung ating SWOT analysis po. And then, siyempre, yung kanina, yung na-discuss po kanina, is yung ating SOAR, yung ating strength, opportunities, and aspirations, results. So, yun po yung, from number 8 po na question. Thank you po.
Thank you, Miss Marilyn. Let's compare your answer with ours. SWOT analysis is correct. SOAR analysis is correct. PEST analysis is correct, or PESTEL. 4D model of appreciative inquiry is correct. So may mga nasabi po kayo rito na sa listahan natin. So that earns you another correct point. So again, papaalala ko lang, shout out kila KJ, kila Natividad, Maria, Harrison, Drusel, Amelia, Jefferson, Jenme, Marisa, Bobby, and many more. No? Ilang daan ito? 590 yung nanonood sa atin ngayon. Puro tama yung mga sagot nila. So ulitin ko lang, ipunin niyo po yung tama yung sagot. All 10 questions, sabayan niyo po yung mga volunteers natin. Ito po yung maikling assessment natin para sa webinar. Last volunteer, sino sa inyong tatlo ang pipili ng natitirang number natin dyan sa matrix?
Ako na lang, sir.
O sige ma'am, kayo na lang.
Okay, number 3.
Madali lang naman. Natin. Okay, please read your question and answer.
Okay. So, what are the types of research based on methods used? Okay, so nandyan po yung descriptive research, and then yung ating experimental research, and then case study, ethnography, and then casual comparative research.
Woo! Tama! Tumpak! Tingnan nyo. Papakita ni Sir Edil yung listahan natin ng mga tamang sagot. Descriptive research, correlational research, casual comparative research, experimental research, case study, or ethnography. Alam niyo itong ethnography? Isa sa mga pinaka-popular na gumagawa nito ay si Professor Michael Wesch from Kansas State University. Sa YouTube, i-google nyo po si Michael Wesch. Kasi nung panahon ng 2000, early 2000, mga nakaraang 2000, si Michael Wesch, yung kanyang ethnographic na tungkol sa Web 2.0, ang siyang pinaka-viewed sa web na video. Gumawa siya ng isang ethnographic. Research yun, based yun sa research, pero siya ang kauna-unahan na professor, si Michael Wesch from Kansas State University, na naging popular yung kanyang ethnographic na The Machine is Us / Using Us. I-google nyo po yun mga kaibigan sa YouTube na nanonood. Kayo pong tatlo na nag-volunteer, i-google nyo po si Michael Wesch. The Machine is Us / Using Us. Napakagandang maikling video. Pero dahil sa research, ginawa niya yon, siya yung naging popular sa YouTube, sa web tungkol doon. The Machine is Us / Using Us. Okay? So paki-chat na lang sa rapporteur natin. Tinatawagan ko si Engineer Rona na i-type sa chat box sa mga natin at saka sa YouTube yung The Machine is Us / Using Us. Okay. So, wow! Congratulations! Sana lahat po ng volunteers natin ay naka-perfect 10 or naka more than 5 correct points. And I'm very happy to declare you pass or competent for this webinar.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you po.
Thank you, Prof. Pierre,
Thank
for discussing with us what research-based planning is and how it can be used or done by our eCenter operatives. I must say, the quiz show made it more entertaining to remember your key points. So for now, we move on to the open forum. And to our volunteers, feel free to stay with us. And for our participants watching this live stream, kindly post your questions through the link in the description box below. Okay, let's see if we can read the first question. Okay, sabi dito ni Teresa Gustilo, can you publish our research output for an ISBN or copyright or authorship? Sir Pierre?
Yes, thank you for your question, Ma'am Teresa Gustilo. You may publish your own research for an ISBN or ISSN from the National Library. So dito sa Pilipinas. Kung sa abroad naman, kung halimbawa sa US, sa Congress yata. Pero dito sa National Library. Maganda po kung meron kayong ISBN, lalo na kung yung research nyo ay towards being published as a book. So maganda po yan. Kunan nyo po ng mga ganyang kredibilidad ang inyong research. So thank you for that question. Magandang contribution po yan sa ating webinar na papanahon.
Thank you, sir. And kung meron mang additional comments ang ating mga volunteers, just raise your hand, so I can see that you have something to say as well. All right, let's have the next question. From Mark Nel Venus. Research is already embedded in the curriculum of senior high school. What do you suggest to make it truly useful for high school?
Ang direct na maisasuggest ko po, lalong-lalo na sa mga nagtuturo ng science research at saka action research sa senior high school, kayo po mga guro at mga punong guro, huwag po kayong mag-hesitate. Pag meron po diyang mga bata na napakahusay magsulat at napakahusay at ganda ng ginawa nilang science research o kahit anong research pa o action research, pakitulungan po sila, i-publish po yung mga yon. Ang suggestion ko po, kahit nasa science, kahit nasa senior high school sila, suportahan nyo po yung mga kabataan natin, yung mga mag-aaral natin na maipublish hindi lamang sa Pilipinas kundi sa abroad. Ano pong silbi ng email? Napakadali po naman po mag-email sa mga counterpart natin sa Thailand, sa CIMEO, sa ASEAN, sa ADB, sa UNESCO, okay, sa Geneva, no? May email naman po. Kaya i-connect po natin yung mga senior high school students natin na magagaling magsulat, no, magagaling mag-research para po ma-publish kahit bata sila. Kahit napakabata pa nila kumpara sa atin, kahit napakabata sila, suportahan nyo po na mai-publish sila. Okay? Yan po ang suggestion ko. Sa senior high school program, K-12 curriculum, tama po si Sir Mark. Nandyan na po yan sa curriculum. Pero any curriculum will not work if the teachers will not teach well. Okay? No curriculum will work if the teachers will not teach well. So part of your teaching well is to love these students, no? To support these students to get published. Makilala po sila. Marinig po yung mga ideya nila ng ibang tao, ng ibang rasa. Yan po ang suggestion ko, Sir Mark.
Yeah, that the idea of having a research paper published is really very inspiring. Kaya kung tutulungan nga natin ng mga estudyante to get their work published, that's gonna push them to a higher level and probably pursue a career that is research-based. Okay, let's have another question. And a suggestion of for new normal setting research or topics for new normal setting.
Wow. Naalala ko po yung aking colleague sa London, sa UK. Meron po akong kaibigan si Mr. Bean. Si Mr. Bean, tinanong niya na rin po ako nito. Pero ang sagot ko po kay Mr. Bean using not a British accent but an Irish one, no? Irish accent. Sinagot ko po si Mr. Bean. Ang sabi ko po sa kanya sa Tagalog ngayon, no? Ay alam mo, Mr. Bean, ikaw lamang ang makakapagsagot kung ano yung magandang topic para sa research mo sa panahon ngayon ng COVID. Kasi itong new normal na salita, napauso lang yan ngayon, ngayong global pandemic. As if yung new normal ay sagradong salita para sabihin na meron na tayong mga bagong kaayusan ngayon, may mga bagong batas na tayo ngayon, may mga bago tayong sinusunod ngayon at saka gawain. So sabi ko kay Mr. Bean, ano ba sa'yo yung new normal? So, dahil hindi ko po kilala kung sino yung nagtanong, para sa'yo, ano ba yung new normal? At doon magiging interesante yung research topic mo dahil baka ikaw mismo merong kakaibang kaisipan tungkol sa new normal. Kaya sabi ko nga sa inyo sa opening ng ating webinar slides kanina, hindi ko po talaga sadyang ginamit yung salitang new normal. Although it is in our thematic for the KEC 15, kung para sa iyo ang isang research topic na interesante ay makakapag-contribute ka dito sa so-called new normal, go ahead. Now go ahead. Pero mas importante, mas napaka-interesante, ano ba para sa inyo, para sa atin, itong new normal? Kailangan ba talaga na merong bago? O baka kailangan natin paigtingin yung meron na tayo? Kasi halimbawa, this pandemic, this global pandemic has given us a gift. And that is the gift of time. We have more time now to read. We have more time now to write. We have more time now to spend time with our loved ones, with our friends, no, especially the people who matter most to us. We have more time now. So that's what I suggest for a very good topic for your research.
Thank you, Sir Pierre. I think we have time for last two questions. Let's get the
Okay.
first, the second to the last. How do we motivate our colleagues, students to conduct research? And why is it important to the professionals to do research? From Nor Fatima D. Alonto of EPS SDO Division, Lanao del Sur.
Shukran, Ibu Nor Fatima Alonto, and to your colleagues as well in Lanao del Sur, and to my friends in Lanao, and to Fahad Al-Subhi. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sa lahat po sa inyo dyan sa Lanao at saka sa Mindanao, pinabati ko po kayo. Hindi ko po mabati lahat ng mga nagchat-chat po sa atin sa YouTube Live. Pero nakikita ko po kayong lahat at pinagdadasal ko po kayong lahat ngayon. Paano po natin mamamotivate ang mga colleagues natin at mga students natin to conduct research? Mga ma'am, mga sir, pakitaan niyo po sila ng ebidensya. Pakitaan niyo po sila ng ebidensya ng buhay po ninyo mismo. Yung buhay po ninyo mismo na kaaya-ayang sundan, kaaya-ayang pamarisan. Yung mismong buhay nyo, pananalita ninyo, yung mga habits po ninyo, ipakita nyo sa kanila. Tapos pakitaan nyo po sila ng mga photos, ng mga ebidensya in visuals, no? Yung mga videos, maikling videos, photos, na pag nakita nila, aba, pag ako pala ay nagsusulat at inililimbag ko po ito at natutulungan ako ng ibang tao para maging libro ito, para basahin po sa mga journals na respetado, para po mapakinggan ng mga sponsors, mga benefactors, para siguro bigyan po ng investment itong na-imbento ko o naisip kong idea, ma-motivate po sila, ma-excite sila na aba, may patutunguhan pala itong pagsusulat ko. May patutunguhan pala itong pagsasalita ko sa publiko. May patutunguhan pala itong eksperimento ko, itong inimbestigahan kong maliit na bagay para lang sa community namin, pero may impact pala ito sa buong mundo. Hindi lang pala sa lugar ko. Mayroon palang nakikinig na mga mahihirap dun sa Thailand, sa Rohingya, sa Myanmar, no, na ganun din pala ang problema nila. See? Ganun na po eh. Wala na pong mga dagat ngayon at saka mga milya-milyang kalayuan ngayon dahil sa internet, no? Dahil sa World Wide Web. So, mamomotivate natin sila kung tayo mismo nagbabasa. Kung tayo mismo ginagawa nating mas maganda pa yung pakikipagkapwa natin. Yung salita natin, yung mga pagsusulat natin, yung mga pinipresent natin, responsable tayo, tapos sinishare natin yung kagandahan nito. Nasasabi ko lang po ito kasi mayroon po ding mga puntos dun sa mga sinabi ko na nagawa ko na. At excited po ako, tsaka taos puso ko pong sinasabi sa inyo dahil napatunayan naman yung karamihan naman dun sa mga nabanggit ko. So maraming salamat, Ma'am Nor Fatima, for your question.
Very inspiring, Sir Pierre. I think we have one more question. We have other questions, but we only have time for one more. From Odante Junior Juanito, how would help indigenous professionals to engage in research base in giving programs or scholarship to help them progress to help their communities? I think what Sir Odante wanted to ask is towards helping their communities. How can they do research?
Maraming salamat, Sir Odante. Thank you very much for your question. As implied in your question, if you are connected or if you are close to an eCenter or a Tech4ED Center of our government, of the DICT, and of the local government in your area, wherever you are. No, please approach them. Talk to the eCenter manager or to the operatives there in the eCenter, and share ideas. No? What are the possibilities, and make sense of the possibilities that can be given, provided the services that are offered in the eCenter. And then from Odante, who may have personal experiences working with or living with indigenous people, no? Indigenous people who are professionals at that. So yung pag nasa IP ka, tapos professional ka, yun palang realidad na yan ay napakalaking inspirasyon. Napakalaking inspirasyon yan. It is a big inspiration for many Filipinos, for IPs who are professionals, whom are engaged in research and giving programs or scholarship. To attract these scholarships and programs, you need to be heard. Odante, you need to be heard. First, by your community. Second, by the bigger government, by the local government, by the national government. And third, by the rest of the world. No? May email po kayo. Mag-email po kayo sa mga ibang gobyerno. Mag-email din po kayo sa ibang mga organisasyon. Mag-email kayo sa mga ibang bansa. Kailangan palawakin niyo po yung network ninyo. Tapos paramihin niyo po yung mga kaibigan ninyong mga professionals na gustong mag-attract ng mga programa at ng mga scholarships at mga pagpopondo, attract and make large, no? Make it bigger, your circle of friends. Thank you, Odante, for your question.
Tingin ko ang first name niya, sir, is Juanito. Baka nagkabaliktad lang yung pagkaka-type natin, no? So, Sir Juanito. Very relevant yung isang type of research na binanggit ni Sir Pierre kanina on ethnography. Because this is practically telling a story on your customs, on your indigenous practices. And probably if the world can hear what you do, it will be easier for them to relate and see how they can help. Okay, that's all the time that we have for our open forum. To our volunteers, do you have any last words before we go?
Sir.
Go ahead, Sir Gringo.
Add ko lang, sir, so sa mga yung katulad kanina, yung nagtanong about the motivation, siguro naisip ko, sir, is mas maganda talaga na ma-expose natin yung mga colleagues natin and then yung mga estudyante, okay, on doing research, hindi lang yung basta sa school lang, sir. So siguro marami naman nag-offer ng mga webinars, okay, sa internet. Ang gawin lang nila is gamitin ang internet, okay, para ma-expose sila, okay, sa pag-aaral kung paano ang tamang pagre-research, sir. Yun po.
Thank you, Sir Gringo. Another use of the eCenter for our students, no? Ma'am Dory, any last words?
So thank you very much for this opportunity to join this webinar this morning, and the topic was very interesting. Research, at least na mind ko about research, kasi the last time I've learned about this is during a few years back in college and during I took up my master's degree, and this time na-refresh naman ang knowledge ko. So thank you very much, and thank you also to FELSECNET for coming up with this kind of conference, even though we are now under this new normal as and then this is very important. Thank you very much.
Sadya gid ay, Ma'am Dory.
Thank you.
And how about Ma'am Lynn? Let's hear from Ma'am Lynn.
Okay, so thank you very much po, FELSECNET, and sa ating speaker for today. At kapag-join po kami, the San Fabian Community Center before, and then upgraded po Tech4ED Center na po ngayon. So, maraming salamat po. And then, ang mga center po natin ngayon ay sila po yung nakakatulong ngayon sa panahon ng pandemic. Like dito sa amin, ang center po namin ay isa sa mga bibigay ng information sa community kung ano na po ba ang nangyayari dito sa mga COVID cases ng community. So isa po ang center namin dyan. So, and then syempre yung napag-aralan po natin ngayon, ang na-discuss po natin ngayon, yung how to research, ano ba yung kailangan na research ng ating mga center na makakatulong sa community. So kailangan laki ng responsibility ng mga Tech4ED Center natin sa ngayon para makatulong ito sa ating community. So, yun lang po at maraming salamat.
All right, thank you so much to our volunteers, our brave volunteers for this morning, and of course to our resource person, Sir Pierre Alejo. Now, let me turn you over back to Angel. Angel, take it away. Go ahead, Angel. Come in.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Richard. That discussion was very interactive. Ayan, I'm back. It was very interactive, especially in our situation now where ICT is key tool in providing solutions with research. We can tap this infinite resource to make eCenters relevant to the needs of our community. So thank you, Prof. Pierre Alejo and Dr. Richard Amansek, and of course to our online volunteers, Ma'am Dory, Ma'am Lynn, and Sir Gringo. We've been working together for years, and we're so blessed that we have volunteers who are coming from award-winning centers. We can really learn a lot from them, and if you want to learn more from them, you can follow them on Facebook. All right, so before we end this webinar, I will be announcing the winners for today's raffle draw. So please stay with us. As also mentioned by our moderator earlier, this will end the part 1. So this is just part 1 of the webinar. So to really apply what we've learned, the concepts and theory from Prof. Pierre, the part 2 of the webinar is a short virtual workshop for eCenter managers and operatives. So you can probably have your lunch while joining us on Zoom. If you're involved in eCenter operations, or if you're from Tech4ED Centers, Feed Centers, and all other eCenters nationwide, please join us until 12 noon today or earlier, possibly, for a short virtual workshop after this first session. The Zoom meeting ID and passcode will be flashed in a few moments. Just you may screenshot. All right, so that's our meeting ID and passcode. We're giving you a few moments to screenshot that, screen capture, so that you can join us in a few moments from today. So let me check on our participants while we're having it flashed. Okay, so can you comment at least one sentence? What have you learned the most from our webinar today? While we give you a few seconds to copy our meeting details. All right. So maybe you have already captured all that. So we now move on to awarding of certificates to our, of course, our volunteers, to our speaker, and to our moderator. So let me read the citation. PhilSecNet Inc. Virtual Knowledge Exchange Conference, eCenters in the Digital Philippines for the New Normal. Certificate of appreciation is given to for joining the quiz show during the webinar on research-based planning, eCenter Making It Happen, live streamed on August 27, 2020 via YouTube. So certificate of appreciation is given to Marilyn Castellan. Thank you, Ma'am Lynn, for sharing to us your insight. Next, certificate of appreciation is given to Ma'am Dory Emelo. So Ma'am Dory is coming from Visayas. Thank you, Ma'am, for sharing to us your thoughts this morning. Okay. Next, certificate of appreciation is given to Gringo M. Makinay. Thank you, Sir Gringo. I was in Cavite last year, I guess, and I witnessed how techy Cavite, Carmona Cavite has become because of their eCenter. Thank you so much for sharing your insights today. Now let's award our moderator. Okay, let's award first our speaker. Okay. Okay, sige. Alright, so certificate of appreciation is given to Prof. Pierangelo Alejo in recognition of his participation as resource speaker in the research-based planning eCenter Making It Happen, live streamed on August 27, 2020 via YouTube. Thank you, Prof. Pierre, for helping us appreciate research, especially in this time where we really need knowledge-based decision. We need to be influenced by knowledge in making decision in such a time as this. Let's also award our moderator for ensuring smooth, interactive, and meaningful conversation. Thank you. Our certificate of appreciation is given to Dr. Richard Amansek as moderator in this webinar entitled Research-Based Planning eCenter Making It Happen. Once again, thank you to our volunteers, our moderator, and our resource person for today's webinar. So now, we will announce the raffle draw winners. To claim your prize, you must send an email to the secretariat at philsecnet.org with email subject, raffle claim, your complete name, and the network provider. So remember, send us your email, the same email that you used when you register for this webinar. So a reminder as well, you don't need to, we invite you to join our upcoming sessions until November, and you don't need to register again for each and every webinar. You just have to register once for the entire series, and you will be receiving a separate link to each webinar. Or you may just subscribe on PhilSecNet's YouTube channel to be updated. Okay, so here we go. The winners of cell cards worth 300 pesos are as follows. No, we don't have some sound effect. Ayan. So, it's on the ticker pala. So, can we see? Hintayin natin ulit. So, winners of 300 peso load. Congratulations, Geraldine Ero, Gilson Mercado, and Arvin Enriquez. If you're here with us, can you comment so we can see? Yeah. So if you want to join our raffle draw next time, you just have to register for this webinar series, and you will have a chance to win at our raffle draw. Right, congratulations to our 3 winners of 300 peso load. Now, the winners for our 500 peso load card. Winners of 500 load, Pat Masiri Karunarathi. Sorry if I haven't read it right, but congratulations, Winnie Butalid and Naja Mangondato. Congratulations, you are our winner for this week for the 500 peso worth of load. Okay, so to our winners, don't forget to send us an email using the same email address that you used so we can verify that it's you. Send us the complete name and your network provider. Congratulations! So for our other participants, you still have the chance to win next time. All right. Congratulations and thank you for joining us this morning. We will still have part 2, which is a workshop session. So don't forget to join us via Zoom. We can have lunch together virtually. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. This concludes our training webinar entitled Research-Based Planning, eCenters Making It Happen. Join us again next Thursday for our next webinar. As we come to close today's activity, please watch the closing video for a few more reminders. That's it. This is 15th Knowledge Exchange Conference with the theme eCenters in the Digital Philippines for the New Normal, a webinar series from August 20 to November 26, 2020. Once again, this is Angel, and on behalf of KEC team, thank you for joining us today. Goodbye for now and have a blessed week.